Welcome to another episode, everyone. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. Thank you, everyone. I truly do appreciate all of your support. Let's get into it. Individual from Shotgun Crip, Gardena, California. Well, he got caught there in prison protecting his cousin, but his cousin was a snitch, a rat. His cousin, he liked cheese. And well, both of these individuals were brutally attacked, pulverized, demolished, and removed from the yard. This transpired in Lancaster State Prison, circa 1995, 1996. I was there. Me, myself, I was only 22 years old. And the homie from Shotgun was a few years older than me. Let's call him S-Gun. No, this is not his name. And right before I hit the yard, S-Gun had already stabbed someone, but gotten away with it. And I sort of heard the rumors through the grapevine what had transpired with that situation. At any rate, he was known for putting in work. He had a propensity to carry a knife and was quick to use it when necessary. His reputation was strong there on the yard. His cousin, however, his reputation was not so strong. His cousin came to the yard not long after I had got there. S-Gun, again, had already been on the yard. He had been there for a couple of years or so. And his cousin was not from his same hood, but was a Crip from L.A., Los Angeles, Los Angeles, California. But as soon as he hit the yard, his homeboys, let's call his cousin Sammy, as in Sammy the Bull, Sammy hit the yard, and his homeboys automatically knew who he was and that he was a Sammy the Bull. He was a rat, a snitch. He had an affinity for cheese. They just did not have the paperwork. It was well known in his hood that he had ratted on the case. It was known in his household. His girl knew he snitched. His kids knew he snitched. His mama knew he snitched. And all of his homeboys knew that he snitched. In fact, they had bore witness to the paperwork. His homeboys on the street, they saw the paperwork. Now, for whatever reason, the individuals there in prison had not been able to get their hands on the paperwork. Things were different then, but even then, it was not hard to get your hands on snitch paperwork. You just send it through the legal mail. Many a time, individuals had snitched, and the individuals on the street had received the paperwork first. The paperwork reached the street first, and then they just sent it to the pen. So I was beginning to think these individuals are just not really trying to get the paperwork, because once you get it and you witness it and you see that this individual is a snitch, you must move, you must act with a weapon. You must take them out. So I'm thinking these individuals just don't want to do this or something, because how hard is it to get this paperwork? Nevertheless, they knew that he had snitched, and they were not hiding the fact. So maybe they were trying to get the paperwork and just couldn't get it, because when he hit the yard, they were up in arms. They said, oh no, this dude is a rat. Now, S-Gun knew the rumor, the jacket that was on his cousin about him liking this cheese. He knew, everyone knew. As I said, the boy's kids knew that he was a rat. It was clear. just didn't have the paperwork inside of prison yet, so they could not move. They could not act. You can know what you know. You can say what you say. You can think what you want to think. If you do not have the paperwork proving that this individual is a snitch, you cannot attack. You cannot make a move. If you do, you can and often will get in trouble, because that rule is in place because individuals have been attacked before, killed even, because someone said that they were a snitch only to come and find out they were not a snitch. This individual had a personal problem with him or her and put this snitch jacket on the individual. People acted on that snitch jacket, acted just based on this individual with an ulterior motive who disseminated this false information and took the individual out who they said was a snitch, only to find out he was not a snitch. Find this out later, after you done killed him, that he was not a snitch. Dude just said this because he had a problem with him, and instead of handling the problem himself, he knew if he put this sort of jacket on him, someone else would handle the problem. So it's a very serious rule that you need to paper. You could have witnessed the individual get on the stand. You know that he's a snitch. If you cannot produce the paperwork and show and prove they're on the yard, do what you want to do on the street. On the yard, if you do not have the paperwork, you cannot act. You cannot move. I don't care what you say. That's what the rule is. It has not always been followed, by the way. Some people say, man, I'm finna get this dude, bro. He a snitch and that's that. I ain't got the paperwork. I don't need it. Y'all do what y'all got to do later. He snitched on me or he snitched on my brother. I'm finna handle this dude. And they didn't handle it. It has happened. But the rule is, without the paperwork, you can't move. So these individuals, his group, his car, sorry for that, but his group, his car, didn't have the paperwork, but they knew he was a rat. His cousin S-Gun also knew that he was a rat. So when he hits the yard, his homeboys tell him, bro, produce your paperwork. Show us your paperwork. They told him to his face, we know you're a snitch, but we don't have the paperwork. But you do. You have the paperwork to your case. Bring your paperwork out to the yard. Period. If you're not a snitch, bring your paperwork out to the yard. But this was really their way to move on him without the paperwork. Because again, they were steadfast in their belief that this individual had ratted. They know what happened with the case. He's their homeboy, they know. They, again, spoke with the individuals on the street who had the paperwork, who seen the paperwork. At this time, there were no cell phones. They couldn't send a screenshot and all that sort of stuff to these dudes in the pen. You had to just send the paperwork to them. And again, that had not happened yet. But he was a rat. So they said, if you do not bring your paperwork out to the yard, then we gonna move on you. Then we can move on you. Because now you just violated. We asked for you have to show your paperwork. Particularly when asked, you have to produce it. Period. If you don't, yes, it's going to be assumed that you have something to hide. So this is going to be their way to get him anyway. Either you produce the paperwork and we prove that you're a snitch and we attack, or you don't produce the paperwork and we're going to attack you for that, for not producing the paperwork when asked to do so. What do you have to hide? Next day or so in the yard, S-Gun comes out and gets in the business. This is his cousin. S-Gun, again, he's not a coward. He has a propensity to withdraw a weapon and a proclivity to use the weapon. Everyone knows this, but everyone on the yard has a weapon and will use the weapon. So no one there is a coward. All of the cowards have long since been weeded out. He comes out and he gets at his cousin's homeboys right there on the yard and tells them, bro, he doesn't have the paperwork. He doesn't have any paperwork, is what he said. He doesn't have the paperwork from his trial. We'll get it. I'll try to get it. I'll holler at my auntie, which I guess is the dude's mother. They're really cousins. And I'll get the paperwork because he didn't snitch. My cousin didn't snitch. Now, S-Gun is young. And I don't believe that this move had been sanctioned by the hierarchy, by his homeboys, his big homies. I don't think that they had told him, yeah, it's okay, because he went over there by himself thinking he cool with these dudes and just said this. There was some other shotguns on the yard that could have went over there with him, would have went over there with him had they known and subscribed to this sort of behavior. But no, they didn't know that he was going to do this. He's trying to protect his cousin behind his homeboys' back, because they would have told him, bro, you have to stay out of that. You can't do anything. They were inside of the cell together. They let them move in the cell together because they still Crips, even though they're from different factions. But you can't get into that business. There's no way they would have allowed this. So he made this move on his own and went and hollered at them and said, man, basically, bag up off my cousin, bro. Thinking because of his reputation, S-Gun, again, known for being a gunner, he will whip out and hit you up. But again, everyone there will. But he thinking, I don't know. I don't know what he's thinking, but he went and told them dudes, they were right there in a little crowd, let's say 5 or 6 individuals. Hey, bro, and he was sort of aggressive. My cousin is not a snitch, but we'll get the paperwork, but until the end, stand down, basically. He's telling them to give us a chance to get the paperwork. Because I guess perhaps he's seen the move as well. This is our way in. We ask for the paperwork, you don't produce it, now we can get you. We can't get you without the paperwork. We know you're a snitch. But we ask you about your paperwork and tell you to bring it to the yard and you don't. Yeah, now we can justifiably get you. S-Gun, peeping a move, approach, hey man, stand down. I'll get the paperwork. We will get the paperwork. But his car said, man, this is suspicious. He should have his paperwork. He has the paperwork. So they went to S-Gun's homeboys, his big homies, and told them, man, your homeboy, your little homeboy is getting in our business. It's getting in our hood business. It's getting in our car's business, bro. We understand that this is his cousin. Nevertheless, his cousin is a rat. And we gonna tear his head off. Tell your homeboy to stand down. Tell S-Gun to stand down. We understand that this is his cousin, again. But if he gets in the way of what we have to do, we're about to remove his cousin. He was done. The die was cast. The decision was made. As soon as he did not produce the paperwork, they had already made up their mind when he hit the yard. We are going to remove him from this yard. He can't stay here with us. There's no way. Paperwork or no paperwork. We know this dude's a rat. How can we get him off? Okay, this is how. You produce the paperwork, it's going to show that you're a snitch. They was convinced he was a snitch, period. So they already knew he's not going to produce the paperwork because it's going to show the paperwork denotes the fact that he is a rat. He's going to come up with whatever excuse, but he is not about to produce this paperwork. And they were right. Just the next day, here comes his cousin, S-Gun. I don't know what conversation they may have had in the cell. If he put S-Gun up to him, man, these dudes about to get me, man, go out there. You somebody, you got your homeboys. Or if he just did it on his own, it's my cousin, y'all ain't, I don't know. But he's not supposed to get involved. I know that much. Cousin and I. He's a rat. He's not from your hood. This is none of your business. So they went to S-Gun's homies. His homeboys, they were hot. They said, what? His G homies said, what? Said, yeah, bro. He approached us like, what? First of all, you got so many violations. You're trying to protect a snitch. You're getting involved in some business that is not yours about a serious issue, a serious situation. This dude is supposed to be a rat. You're approaching individuals on the yard from a whole nother clique, a whole nother group, a whole nother section, a violent section. These dudes are not no joke. And you didn't even let your homeboys know that you were about to do this. Putting everyone in jeopardy. I mean, he had violation after violation. They were upset. They were irate. Were his big homies. They said, man, we'll take care of this, bro. He gonna stand down. He has nothing to do with y'all situation with his cousin. Whatever y'all gonna do, trust me, he gonna stand down. He has nothing to do with it. But whatever discussion they ended up having, these individuals, S-Gun's homeboys, they decided that S-Gun needed to go. That he had to be removed alone with his cousin. The reason is obvious. He's disseminating false information, propagating a falsehood that this individual doesn't have the paperwork and that this individual is not a snitch. He's approaching a whole different faction, jeopardizing the safety and the livelihood of everyone involved. Well, that was an ill-advised decision, and their decision was final. The only strategy was how to remove both of them from the yard at the same time. Oddly enough, if you will, the two factions got together to work it out because I guess they didn't want Sammy's homeboys running in the cell and then dealing with S-Gun at the same time. S-Gun's homies didn't want Sammy's homeboys, vice versa. They wanted to take care of their own. So they decided, I go in there with y'all. Which two going in there for Sammy out of y'all homeboys? Okay, this who going in there to get S-Gun out of our crew. So y'all cool with going in there together? Now this is odd because normally it's not a mixture like this where two different factions hook up to take care of situations, but they are still taking care of their own homeboys. And it just so happens that they're from different hoods and they're in the cell together because they're cousins. And they want both of these dudes off the yard at the same time. They want both of these individuals to be attacked. This is what they came up with. Two from our faction, which is S-Gun's faction, two from Sammy's faction. Connect 4 individuals running the cell and brutalize these individuals with weapons and remove them immediately. Fine. No one's going to hesitate. Everyone's upset about the situation. Everyone's upset that Sammy is on the yard. He didn't last nothing but a few days before all of this happened. They don't want him there. And they're even more upset that S-Gun has went and gotten involved in it. Everyone understands that this is family. This is his blood. Blood is thicker than water. You're going to ride for your cousin. He has to look up. He has to answer to his family. He has to answer to his auntie and all of that. You just let them stab and kill and beat my son or whatever. This your cousin over some gangbanging stuff. I don't know. Whatever his thinking was. But regardless, you can't get involved. You can't protect a rat. Cousin, brother, father, doesn't matter. Later on that night, the cell doors cracked for a day room. This is when a lot of the business is handled. The 4 individuals at some point during day room got these dudes' cell hit and ran inside of the cell and went to work. The 2 was on Sammy, and they were really on Sammy, and he got it the worst. Sammy was viciously attacked. He was hit everywhere. He had marks he had blood everywhere. You can see it was graphic. He was lit up because they put the day room down. Get down, because at some point they heard what was going on in there. They knew they just cracked that cell door. They had to do something because those dudes was in there getting mauled. S-Gun was in there fighting back the best he could because he was not a coward. It's just the move that he made was cowardly, and you can't do it. But fight back as much as you may. He was no match for the 2 individuals with weapons and a job to do. They attacked him and brutalized him as well. And they both needed medical attention. The nurses had to run inside of the building and run inside of their cell, and they was in there for a minute working on these individuals. Day room recall, everyone had to lock it up. They got the dudes out of the cell that had put down the attack, cuffed them up and got them out of the way, and was now trying to save these 2 individuals because they were both in bad condition. They did indeed survive the attack. Physically anyway, or at least, as far as the eye can see, they didn't die. They may still have some physical problems. You get stabbed 30 and 40 times, chances are you're going to have some sort of problem later on in life, during, for the rest of your life or whatever. But whatever you have survived physically, I would imagine that mentally, the trauma is still there forever. Someone coming at you with a knife and using it on you, you'd probably think about that every night for the rest of your life. I don't know. That was it. They survived. They got them dudes off to the yard. Ain't no coming back to the yard after that. After you get stabbed up like that, they removing you. You're gone. They got the other four dudes and removed them as well. I'm sure they got shoe programs or whatever, security housing unit. But that's the price you're willing to pay. That's what happens when people have to take care of business in that sort of situation. But those 2 individuals, they were off in the yard, which was the goal from the beginning. Hey, just don't commit any crimes. If you do, you got to stay strong. Just don't do it. Tough dudes, and then get in there and tuck your tail. No, you're going to be exposed, and it's all bad. But I don't know, these days, they got all these S&Y yards and 50-50 yards. You can get away with a lot of stuff. But, just out of the personal moral, your own moral compass. No. Stay safe. Oh, man. It was a bloody situation. And stay free. People.